Hi, welcome back to Ladies Get Paid. I'm Claire Wasserman, a career coach, author, and founder of Ladies Get Paid. And today we're diving into a conversation that I think will resonate with so many of you, especially if you've ever felt like your world got turned upside down and suddenly everything you thought you knew about your career just stopped making sense. My guest today is a marketing professional and new mother who's at a major crossroads. After a traumatic childbirth experience where she nearly lost her life, she's questioning everything. Should she stay in marketing? Should she pivot to nursing? Is remote work even working for her? And how do you even begin to figure out your next move when you're swimming in dissatisfaction, but also drowning in self doubt? What I love about this conversation is that we don't just talk about the binary choice of stay or go. No, instead, we dig into the real stuff, the values that matter, the day to day realities of different paths, and how to start exploring new directions without blowing up your life in the process. So, if you've ever experienced something that made you reevaluate everything, or if you're feeling stuck between what you should do and what you're actually craving, this episode is for you. Let's get into it.
Recently became a mother and I'm totally reevaluating my career. I'm considering taking steps towards a full career change into nursing, but I know that there's still juice to squeeze out of my marketing career. Right now, I'm on maternity leave. I actually have 4 weeks left. I'm returning in November, and it's on the heels of a huge layoff. I've been working at a startup, and they pretty much just halved the size of their workforce, and I'm a survivor. But yeah, so back at work in 4 weeks. I'm pretty unsatisfied with my current role and I need some help figuring out my next step. I have actually signed up to volunteer at some local hospitals. I'm applying to marketing courses to level up my marketing skill set, and I'm prepared to overhaul my website and my portfolio to get back to the job market upon my return from maternity leave. I would like some help understanding why I'm so unsatisfied in my current role. Why is it that I want to leave? Determine whether I should leave my marketing career behind completely for a career change into nursing, or if it's just time for a new marketing role or company. And then a little bit of additional background. In 2024, I changed industries from direct to consumer brand marketing to working in climate tech. And I thought that working in sustainability would make me enjoy marketing more, feel like I'm doing something for good. But I currently don't like my manager. I really don't like my clients. And I'm learning that the remote work environment isn't something that I want to keep up with long term. I also feel pretty concerned about the job market. Marketing, in many ways, has felt like a young man's game for me, and I'm concerned about the longevity of my career. I'm in my late 30s. I'm not sure I like where things are going with AI and marketing generally, and I have a lot of upskilling to do. In addition to that, pregnancy and giving birth to my daughter changed my perspective on healthcare work, which is something that I had never even considered before. I lost 40% of my blood after labor, and watching the midwives, the doctors that came in to help, and the nursing staff come in and quickly search for the source of the bleed and manage to get it to stop before having to rush me into surgery. I was just in awe of them stopping everything and changing my life. Sorry, let me rephrase. I guess I almost died. I was lying there with my daughter on my chest, with my husband by my side, and seeing them at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, just like casually save my life so that I could be with my family, rocked my world. And I just find healthcare incredible, midwives incredible, anyone that works in labor and delivery amazing. And yeah, I've been thinking about exploring it as a career path because I feel like I am somebody that could be an empathetic caregiver in a space like that.
My goodness, thank you for sharing that. And before we jumped on this call, you shared something with me casually, to use your word, casually saved my life on a Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. I love that. But you shared a piece of information with me that was, I think, critical to understanding where your curiosities lie. And this is going to be helpful for anybody watching and listening who feels like they're at a crossroads. The thing that you shared with me was about content that you consumed. a lot of. I think that's very important for everybody to pay attention to. It's not always what you're doing, but it's what you're receiving. And if you like a certain kind of content, and you're drawn to it, you are investing your time and energy and potentially even resources into consuming that content. And so tell everybody, what was it that you told me you used to read? I don't know if you said religiously, but it was something you were a voracious consumer of. What was that content? And this was pre-birth, pre-trauma.
Yeah, pre-birth. So there's a podcast called The Birth Hour, and it's long form interviews with women that have given birth in all sorts of different ways, whether that's like a C-section or vaginally. And each episode, it's a fantastic podcast series. And I was obsessively listening to the episodes in the lead up to my birth because I just wanted to know everything, what the experience was like, what other women have experienced. And I almost was approaching it from okay, how can I prepare for birth? Like for all the outcomes.
It's like the universe knew that you needed to prepare for yours, but can you ever really prepare for what you experienced? Anybody who's gone through, and I'll use the word traumatic, but it doesn't have to always be big T trauma, something that is completely different from what you've ever experienced before that just startles you out of your status quo. It could be a firing, it could be a childbirth story like yours. Honestly, the pandemic was that for a lot of people. It makes you reevaluate so much. And we're going to get to the job market stuff and being strategic later on in our conversation today. It will happen and it deserves its place. But I want to get really creative before we do that and dig into the aspects of your world that got rocked. Because there's what you do for a living, there's who you do it for, there's how you do it, there's the impact that you have, there's the impact that you feel. And there's your everyday. There are so many variables that contribute to satisfaction or dissatisfaction at work or in your life. And my goal with you is to see your job as just one variable, of which, by the way, there's like many variables within that, but it's just one thing. We have to make sure that you are finding fulfillment in your life if it's not going to come from your job. Ideally, you do what you love and you make money from it too, but that may take time. So the point is, I want to get this away from do we stay at marketing in your role or switch entirely to nursing? That's way too limited of an option, right? Those are one or two binary, really big choices. I'm scared. I don't want to do that. So I would much rather think about what are all the ways in which we can scratch whatever itches you have. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Yeah. So I want to dig in further again, like I said, to that rocking of my world. Tell me more about whether it's the experience itself, what you thought of since then or felt, or the things you keep replaying, or what parts of it really struck you the most, would you say?
So I had a doula and she took so many photos and videos of that moment when I was laying there and I had my daughter on my chest and I was hemorrhaging. So you can see that there's like chaos in the background. So what's really helpful is I can look at those photos anytime. Anyone that's gonna give birth anytime soon, highly recommend having somebody there just to document it so that you can go back there. But I remember honestly, just like the week or two after my birth, it's really all I could talk about with people. Like, I just was in shock and very thankful that I went through that with my family and that I was still alive. The things that I was saying about it was how incredible I felt so well taken care of by the hospital staff, the midwives. Anyone that's given birth can relate to this. If you've had midwives before, the women are down there coaching you. It really is a sporting event. It's such an intense experience. Coaching me through every push. Like I was in labor for 28 hours and I pushed for 3 hours and then the hemorrhaging happened after that. So I was really exhausted, but I really felt like I was a part of a team. Like I felt like even though I was the one delivering the baby, I was the one that delivered the placenta. I was the one that hemorrhaged afterwards. I still sat there feeling like my husband was a part of this. The midwives were all a part of it. The doctor that they emergency called down to stop the bleeding was a part of it. And it felt like, yeah, complete the same way that I felt as a marketer when I would do some like big campaign, or I used to work in video production if I directed something. It was all a team effort. So yeah, afterwards, my world just was cracked open and I felt, what have I been doing with my life? There's
Mhm.
people where that is just their everyday. They come to work, they leave everything else at the door, and they bring life into the world and oftentimes save lives. After sharing my story, the number of women that shared traumatic birth stories with me where they too were like at death and birth's doorstep at once. It helped me realize that my story is it's unique, but
Mhm.
not that unique.
Listen, a nurse saved my son's life. She heard a murmur and said, I think this doesn't sound good. And he was in, had open heart surgery 1 week later when he was 7 days old. But there were things that you were saying that are just so critical here. Part of a team. And then I wrote connection with others. And these are things you had been craving, I think, before, right? Because you mentioned remote work not being always the best thing or kind of a demotivator or dissatisfaction with your manager and your clients. Like these were already seeds that had been planted that this birth experience just blasted open for you. I also do think no matter what somebody's quote traumatic experience is, it truly doesn't matter what it is. It actually all comes down to connection with others is the lesson we learn that we deeply need one another and that healing and connection can come through love. Honestly, like this was a manifestation of love, and aliveness comes from love. And your experience is not even a metaphor because there literally was birth in it. But that is the aliveness. And it's not just your daughter who was being born. I think it was you who was being reborn in that experience. And as uncomfortable as it is now to question all of it, like this, who am I? I'm so glad that you're asking those tough questions and that you also reached out. This is such a critical lesson for everybody watching and listening. It is nearly impossible to figure this out by yourself. And to underscore my point about trauma, connection to others. The great way that we can determine who we want to be next is to find ourselves in connection with others somehow, whether it's through coaching, community, or whatever. So these are the values that are important to you, part of a team, right? So whether we decide that it's going to get manifested in the healthcare world, I want to put that to the side for a section and second, and really just say, what are the values that I am going to put front and center in my life that I am taking from this experience, but also looking at my life before this experience, where were the rumblings of this? So, besides part of a team or connection to others, can you think of some other things that might be of an important value to you?
Just like generally or related to that birthing experience.
Anything and everything that comes to mind, something that if you can feel this, you will feel both alive and grounded, creatively inspired, no regrets. Like this is how you want to experience your life. You need to have these, and you fill in the blank. What do you need for that?
Yeah, I don't know. When I think about my career and what is attractive to me about healthcare, whether or not that's working in like labor and delivery, but I really have always been so excited whenever I'm participating in something that feels like live, like
Yep.
happening now. Like even something like this, for
Yep.
example, like participating in this interview with you. I have a background in journalism. All my favorite projects in my past roles have always been ones where I am like leading a live broadcast or we're participating in something that's of the moment, is trending, is something that could like actually change things. I don't know how to give that a word, but I
Mhm.
always found it so exciting when it was like, I don't know what the word would be for that.
I almost want to call it like events based, even though it's not. And I don't necessarily mean like event, like there has to be an event, but it's something tied to a moment in time. I know what you're
Yes.
talking. I know what you're talking about. Also, now I'm going to tell you to collaborate with me after this on collecting stories about women and motherhood. But okay, so that's what we're going to do. But here, I could just put it plainly. Here, I think it's taking your strengths and skills from your career and then applying it in a direction that reflects your values and gives you a feeling of impact that's important to you. So let me give you a quick example of what might sound nice on paper but not be good in reality, which by the way I think you've even experienced yourself, right, when you pivoted into more of the sustainability and then it wasn't exactly what you wanted. Let's say we decided we're going to put your journalist hat back on and we're going to go ahead and collect a bunch of women's stories about birthing. But you look at your day to day and you're still alone and you're receiving these stories by email and you realize, oh, that's not scratching my itch for the live piece. I need to have something where I'm feeling their energy in some way. It's not to say don't go in that direction, but the point is I want you to really understand if you move in a certain direction, what is your everyday experience going to be like? So, not the theoretical, this fits my values on paper, but what is required of me energetically to pursue this day in and day out. And the same question goes even for the nursing stuff. If you to go in that direction, the burnout is quite high, right? That's like what you're looking for on steroids. So now do you want it anymore if it's on steroids? You might want to balance. All right, is what we'll end up probably finding here is we will pick and choose various pieces of this that will fit into your what you make your money from and what you do on the side. And each one will have its place. But tell me if that resonates that like it works on paper, but in the reality of the day to day, it's not what you want. Has that been your experience before?
Totally. Yeah. Everything that you said resonated with me. I think I'm not an adrenaline junkie. Is the thing. Like there's no part of me that wants to be a midwife. That is way too much responsibility for me. And imagining actually being a labor and delivery nurse now that I'm a mom, and am I going to have two kids? My hobbies outside of that, my family life, like that is a lot to have in your life every day for your job. And I do question that. I'm like, could I really do that? Would I be cracked out all the time? And then on the flip side, a lot of the past roles I had, I was a YouTuber. I've hosted YouTube series for brands back when like Instagram Live, is Instagram Live still a thing? Like I used to
Girl,
do
I'm
all,
in the midst of doing a whole bunch of Instagram lives. So listen, they're averaging afterwards. I'm getting about 450 people
oh,
looking at them. They're not joining live, but the views are 450. So if you have 20, 30 minutes to spare and you want to hop on, like it's worthwhile thing. My thing is always whatever you do, make sure there's value in the doing and not just in the getting. Meaning if you don't get the performance metrics afterwards, it still needs to have been worth it for you. And that's the whole thing actually I want to try with you here is whatever direction you end up going in, the pursuing of that path needs to be giving you something as well.
totally. And that's what I was going to say. In a lot of my past roles, when you work in marketing, like if you're going to do a live broadcast, that's like 1/100th of what your scope is there. You're still doing so many other things at the same time. And then you would do this one project that would like light you up and give you the juice that you needed.
Mhm.
And I think where I've been at recently is that I'm in a role right now where I just don't do that at all. I have none of that. And I'm getting very little joy out of
Yeah.
my current role because I don't have any of the events-based stuff in it.
Mhm. Cool. By the way, here's the upside for not feeling super alive and inspired at your current job is it means it's also not an energetic drain necessarily. I know you've been away from maternity leave, you're going to come back, hopefully you still have a job, but what would you say 1 to 10 is the energetic drain and even just like the time commitment for your full-time job? Do you have some space in your life to do things on the side?
So I didn't before, and that's because of the attitude that I bring to work. I am this person that my entire working life has always been almost obsessively worried that I was going to get fired. I've
Mhm.
always been worried that a layoff is coming, that I'm going to be targeted, that I'm going to let go. So I overperform. I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah.
I'm responding that Slack message in a second.
Yeah.
Like you're sending me the 2 a.m. email from the VP. I'm responding to it. And we all know that isn't ever what's going to save your job. That type of behavior isn't what is going to get you promoted. But I've just been like addicted to all of that. And I need to let it go. That doesn't jive with motherhood anymore as it is. Going back to my role, I am planning on putting much less effort in than I was
Okay.
before, like almost as bare minimum as I can.
Yep.
And I would love to be able to find space to do something that does light me up
Yeah.
on the side if I can. but it's been so long since I did. Early in my career, I was a freelancer. I worked as a photographer and a videographer, and I was a creator. And it's been since like 2014 since I was out creating on my own. So the thought of going back to it, social media is a much different place now than it was like 12 years ago.
Okay, let's talk about some guardrails. This is my first recommendation for anybody who wants to make a change in their life. Before you start adding in new things, okay, or new behaviors, we've got to reevaluate what you're currently doing, what your current output is, and just optimize it so that you're not leaking as much energy. Obviously, we don't have enough time here today to go super in depth, but I love your intention and the commitment to doing more of a bare minimum. But those old patterns will die hard. So I would say, as a good next step for you, think about what guardrails you can put into place. How will you know when you are starting to cross over into the overperformance, right? Or responding to emails. If you have to stop yourself every time, that's a drain on your energy because that's relying on your willpower. So a quick example would be coming up with auto responders to put on your emails that set expectations. Hey, I look at my email twice a day and you can expect a response within 2 days. If it's more urgent than that, email me again. Whatever, you'll figure it out. But just do reflect on how do you make the following through of a new behavior a little more seamless for yourself. I would say that's a good first step. Second step is also being extraordinarily clear with your boss and team and everybody else. Like, what are the priorities? What's most important for them? And just do that. So you have a way of discerning what is bare minimum for yourself. Because again, what you mentioned sounds good, and I trust you can probably figure it out. But for people listening, it's hard to follow through. So that would be a good next step. And then let's say you carve out 20 minutes every day that's dedicated to exploring a new path, okay? Because I don't want you figuring this out at rock bottom or because of trauma. It should be almost like a little workout. This is your little like inspiration workout. I've talked about this, I think, in previous podcasts, maybe where I make the analogy of a little fire. Like we have to stoke a fire and you have to keep adding kindling to it in order for it to keep going. And we don't want it to blow up in our face. And sometimes, like when you're so passionate about something, it can blind you. Like, no, we want this to be something that you are very intentional about cultivating. And it's this kind of like spark. Another analogy I like to use is maybe a block of marble that you're chipping away, and you have a sense of what sort of statue or end product you might end up making out of it. But you have to take an action and then step back for perspective. And I want this block of marble to unveil itself to you as well. It's an interesting process where we have some hypotheses of where you might go, direction you might go in, but I want to cross things off our list. And ways you can cross some options off your list is to get more information about the day to day. And so if you think, all right, nursing was on your list, but when you get more information about the day to day or what's required to sustain the energy of that adrenaline, you already have an instinct, hey, maybe this is not for me. I mean, you tell me, like, what of the things that you've thought about, how much real conversation have you had with people about what's difficult or mundane or tedious or the things they don't like? What about that information? How much of that do you have from whether they're nurses or just people in general in healthcare?
A fair amount. So I have interviewed all the nurses in my life. I've asked them so many
Good.
questions. I was in a mom group with a nurse practitioner and also a pediatric nurse, and my cousin is an ICU nurse.
Great.
So I've learned, and I've been on TikTok. Wow, there's so much nursing content on TikTok. I love it, and I've been addicted to it. Like I love all of it. There's so many different pathways that you can take, and I think at its core, what I like about nursing is that you can constantly reinvent your career. It's not like the corporate world where there's one ladder that you climb and you're hopping industries, but you're trying to go from like manager to senior manager to director to VP to CMO as a marketer, or if you're trying to go into consulting or go freelance. But nursing is just like a huge world, and I love that. So I've learned a lot of positives, but I've learned a lot of negatives. Like, absolutely not emergency nurse environment is definitely not for me. So I've done that. I've also signed up to start volunteering at the hospital
Good.
closest to me, and I'm going to start doing that in January, just so I can learn a little bit more about the environment. And the cost of going to nursing school is so high. It's all over the place, but it would be like a 5-year transition
Yeah.
between the prerequisites, getting the ADN, the BSN, and then if I do want to become a nurse practitioner eventually after that, it could end up being like 100K of
Mm,
investment. And that's not something that I really want to pull away from my family's finances right now.
yeah.
So I'm
My
gonna,
biggest my
yeah.
biggest recommendation, first of all, you've done everything right. So this is kudos to you. You're consuming the content, you're talking to the people, you're volunteering. 1000%. You're already doing all the things I was going to suggest. My biggest recommendation probably is to stay in marketing, but then do it in healthcare. It's got to be, first of all, good news, healthcare, one of the only industries that's growing.
Yeah.
You're so lucky. My gosh, I'm so happy you had a traumatic birth. No, just kidding. It is one of the few industries where they're actually hiring. Yay. Also, all different kinds of healthcare. What does it even mean to be in healthcare? There's so many aspects of the healthcare world. By the way, continue to volunteer, to continue to immerse yourself in the nursing culture. I am going to talk to you after this about us collaborating together on birthing stories. I think the fact that you've even been in journalism, like storytelling, is a huge part of what you are drawn to. Scratch that itch. However, do that on the side as you're immersing yourself in the world, continuing to immerse yourself, but then find a job in the healthcare world that makes the most sense for your current skills. Who would most easily hire you, right? And it always comes down to when the learning curve will be minimal because you're a gamble. When I hire somebody, I'm investing my dollars in them. I want to make sure I'm getting a return on that investment. So for you to transition from where you are currently and where you've been to healthcare, that to me seems where you should be putting some effort into determining, okay, what are my next steps to demonstrate that I have a transferable skill set here? And the good news is you have a fantastic personal story, and that does count. Anybody who's making a pivot, if you've got a really compelling personal connection to why you're making the pivot, that's wonderful. That certainly counts. Tell me if you've done research in, because I'm sure you have, looking into what does it mean to do marketing in healthcare? Because I'm sure there's so much that comes up.
A small amount. So I applied to some marketing and communications roles at one of the hospital systems near me, and I didn't get selected, but I put almost no effort into my resume, very minimal into the cover letter. Like I did this like 2 months postpartum, crazy brain out of it. But I think that is a good direction. I know that there's like startups, like healthcare tech is exploding. Background wise, I used to work in the like fitness and sports marketing space, and I know that's just like if you look at the cross section with health there, that industry is also growing. What's hard is I feel 8 years ago, you didn't need to have industry experience in an industry to transition there, and now you do. So I feel like healthcare marketing is looking for people with experience in healthcare marketing. So now the job is almost for me to find a way
Mhm.
my portfolio into one where it looks like I have experience.
You just gave the answer. That's exactly what it is. And the good news is that's already stuff that you are finding that's lighting you up, is drawing your curiosity, is helping you reconcile the trauma you experienced. It's not just a stepping stone to get where you want to go, but it is the very kind of life experience that will make you feel like it is the life that you want. What will make you most special, it is the alchemy of all of your disparate experiences because nobody has that. Nobody has X, Y, Z, and your personal life all together. So I love that you've had all these different, like you'll stand out because you haven't just done healthcare marketing. However, I am underscoring, yes, again, for them to not feel like they're making a big gamble on you, you do want to show you understand what they need you to do, whether you understand the language they're speaking here, the vocabulary they're using, or the contacts. Or one way to get started with a list of targets, potential places you might want to look at, and by the way, they don't have to have open jobs, it's just networking your way in, is look at who's sponsoring any kind of healthcare conference. You don't need to go to the conference, but just who's a speaker, who's a sponsor, who, if they list attendees, all kinds of conferences. There are so many. And just make a list of who are the players in this space because you got to work backwards from there. And so just make that list and then finding them on LinkedIn. And then when you see, okay, quote, needs healthcare experience, what does that actually meet, why, get more details. And then that might be talking to somebody who has the job that you want or something close. You're also in these communities, you're talking to these people. Start putting it out there and be honest about your deficit. Here's what I bring to the table that's great. Here's what I'm missing. What's your suggestion? Because it is a chicken and the egg, right? Like you need experience. It's like you need 5 years experience to get your first job. So if you can talk to people who are just a little bit ahead of you about what would they see as proof? What would be quality proof from you to demonstrate to them that you have enough of the experience they're looking for? Getting specifics will help. All right, in the next 3 months, here's what I need to do.
Yeah, I really like that. I've never done that before. I've always just cold applied for jobs, or somebody that I know has plucked me that I've used to work with and has said, "Hey, I have a job. Will you come and work with me again?" I've not had to put any of like the networking level of effort into finding my next role. And that's a big part of what I'm nervous about in this hiring market because you have to now. Like, you
I
can't
know.
just apply for a job. You have to apply for the job and then hit up 10 people that work at the company and hope that you're not creeping them out.
So here's the good news is, especially if you want to do marketing, you can, in a way, I think, get into some of these companies through their current marketing efforts potentially. Are any of these companies hosting events or podcasts or producing any sort of content out there? If not, and you think they should be, why don't you email them with ideas?
Yeah.
Let's see how we can turn this into, this goes back to what I said earlier of, let's not wait till we get the outcome to feel good, but have the process of getting there actually be giving you something.
Mhm.
So this experience of connecting, which I'm going to use that word instead of networking, that experience of connecting with people in the industry that you want to be in, doing things you want to do, that can become really inspiring, I think. If you look at it A in that way, and B, those are the conversations you're having. Have inspiring conversations with these people versus, hey, like it's me, I'm bothering you. I also recommend, and I say this 1,000 times, but don't even think of yourself as a full timer, that you are your own company and these are potential clients of yours. And so if you're coming to them, whether or not you decide you want to share any ideas, but at least in your own mind, you're like, I have ideas for how their marketing could be stronger, you might feel more motivated to connect.
Yeah, I've always wanted to start posting some level of meaningful content on LinkedIn or like engaging with others that work in industries that I'm excited about on LinkedIn, but I've made none of the effort. What are your thoughts in general on LinkedIn?
Mhm.
Because we love it, we hate it.
I know it's probably the best platform to use professionally, best platform to use. And they keep changing algorithms. And my posts used to have more reach. And you can bitch about that if you want, but you can also say, hey, it's a way where I can put in pretty minimal effort and have people connect with me. That's cool. That's great that we can do that. You can also follow people. Don't start by posting your own stuff. Start by engaging with the things that are already on there. So, following people that inspire you, engaging in their content. So, don't even put pressure on I have to make posts and be consistent because that's the other thing is you want to be consistent. So, if you're going to say, "Hey, every Monday I'm posting," please post every Monday. Short is fine. Less is good. Like quality over consistency is most important, but just have a couple of sentences. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't need to be a huge performance. I think a level of vulnerability is good, but it should be strategic. So there's a time and place to share everything. Usually it's, hey, here's an experience I've had and the lesson that it gave me. Something that can be valuable to another person. That's the filter all of this content should always go through is what's in it for the other person. How does reading this or receiving this benefit someone else, particularly the people I might want to work for or connect with? How could seeing my content make them better at their job? So always thinking of it in those terms, whether that, I don't know if that makes you feel better or worse to hear it that way, but it's not about you. It's about what you're giving others. But you already know all of this because you've created content before. There's of course like a whole game you could play with the algorithm, but forget about it. It's just about consistency, real people, real connections, real wisdom, and just make it easier for yourself to follow through, whatever it is. Just if you make your coffee every morning, that's when you're posting. It's tacking it on to a habit you already have. That's probably my best advice. What quick question though, what is it about the work that you've done over the course of your career would you say is the through line? Like the thing that you keep coming back to, the consistent pattern. It could be the way you do something, what you're drawn to, and you can also tell me that you don't know the answer and we can find it together.
I generally always needed to have some level of a passion for the industry or the product that I was marketing in. So if I go way, way back to the beginning of my career, I had this YouTube channel that I ran for a month. And in it, I was showing people how you could travel the world on $20 a day. So I was making budget travel videos. This was way before all the millions of people that are doing it now. But I did that YouTube channel for a year and I loved it. And I kept showing up and I had a consistent posting schedule because people were commenting on my videos, saying they found it helpful. And that was really important to me. So when I'm going to be marketing something, when I'm going to be storytelling something, if I was to be publishing anything that my name is going to be next to, it's really important to me that I believe in it. And I think that it's like worth people's
Mhm.
time because social media, we're all on our phones every day. And if I'm going to put anything in front of people, I don't want to be wasting their time. I want to create something that I feel like is important and life changing to an extent,
Mhm.
something that brings people together. So I guess a through line I would say is that I've always only ever worked on initiatives that I feel are adding to people's lives, are important, and bring people together.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down. Bring people together. That's so far, it's a common thread that I've seen through our conversation. Keep that in mind when you're looking at these potential healthcare companies. What are they doing to foster team dynamic? Do they share that value of bringing people together? And does that value get expressed in marketing? Is there a way that you can bring community building, whether it's events or just content into the marketing, right? So it'll be interesting to see how you play with it, but it just, again, it sounds people seeing themselves in each other or working together in some way must be a critical element that you bring forward in some capacity.
I think so. Yeah, I would agree with that. Just the last, ever since the pandemic and going fully remote, and I think roles that I had where we at least got together in person a little bit beforehand or like on a quarterly basis or something, there was synergy. But the company that I'm working for right now, like we don't get together offline at all. And there's really not a closeness. Everyone feels siloed.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't make the work fun. And it breeds like paranoia of people not trusting each
Yeah.
other. And
Yeah.
it's not a super healthy work environment. And I don't know, I think the organizations that are remote and do it really are really good at fostering team culture online. Like I know it can be done well, and they're also investing in some in-person activity on a regular basis as well. And that's just not where I am right now. So I guess now I know when I'm interviewing I know to ask those questions about what's their team culture like. Do you have one?
Yeah. Okay. Here's a quick thought as we round out is be the thing that you're craving. So
Hmm.
you want more team culture. You have an instinct that it's happening, could be happening elsewhere. Like it's not a done deal that like just by it being remote, therefore it cannot happen. No, you're like, I think this could happen. If this fits in with skills that you want to build, why not come up with an idea or a series of ideas that you pitch to your current company about how to improve the culture through connection? And it
That's
doesn't have to be that you're like, this culture sucks. Like you'll present it in a way that it's all upside, it's minimal investment for them. It's something that you're getting to fill your cup, build your skills, add to your resume. Heck, who knows? Maybe you start looking at companies that do that for a living. Like literally, their mission is to improve company culture through remote work or whatever. Like, oftentimes, the thing that we're missing, right? There's this deficit in our life, and we see it as a roadblock. We go, oh, I wish this wasn't happening. I'm like, wait a minute. It's actually a signal that's a value to you. It is valuable to you to have team culture. You could participate in creating that. What would that look and feel like? Curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. The company that I'm at, we just had this big layoff. Morale is like really bad. They let go of their HR team. There's no one looking after the people that work at this company now. So if I did pitch something that was good, maybe it would be picked up.
There's a vacuum. That when I hear that there's people who used to do this sort of thing and they're not there anymore, that means not that there isn't a need for it, it's just there wasn't a budget for it. So you might have issues getting money if you're looking for that, but they might go, "Oh, thank God. We're so grateful that she's offering to do this."
Yeah. There's some existing like channels and calls that like there's a women's group, for
Mhm.
example, that was dead. Like nobody was ever going to the women's group calls. Maybe that's something that I could help bring back. And we would just get together and we would talk about things like the company's maternity leave policy and reporting back to the CEO of the company on what the woman's experience is like in a tech organization. Because as everybody knows, it's not a lot of tech companies, mine included, is ran by an engineer. This engineer is a dude. He hires a bunch of other dudes that like to hear themselves talk incessantly in these calls, and women that like can't get a word in edgewise. So we always found those meetings to be pretty helpful just to get together and for us to like really just to trauma bond and vent at each
Yeah,
other.
yeah. And by the way, for you or anyone thinking who's she doesn't like this company or want to stay there, why would she want to help? It's because it's not about actually the company. It's about the experience of if you were to do this, it's giving you something, whether it's giving you inspiration, a sense of closeness, skills, something to put on your resume. Back to my point of it's not actually the end goal, it's the experience of getting there that's giving you something. Great. We are coming up on time. So, how are you feeling now? Not to put you on the spot, but compared to how we began, where are you at? Do you have some key takeaways?
I feel good. Yeah, I feel a little bit less negative and like doomsdayish about my career. I still like marketing. I am a storyteller. It's what I've done now for 10, 15 years, and I've loved doing it in the past. I think right now I'm just not in the an environment that's
Mhm.
positive enough where I'm flourishing. So I guess my main takeaways are to explore the kind of like community building thing that I'm interested in, to try and see if I can carve out time each day to work on a project that is mine to own that might give me some of that spark while I'm not getting it out of my current job, and to keep looking and playing around in the healthcare realm, whether that is researching about different companies in the healthcare space or hospitals, looking at the people that work in those roles on LinkedIn and hitting them up and interviewing them and trying my hand at applying for some roles and then see where
Yeah.
that all takes me.
I mean, you may even find, because I'm already starting to get ideas just from that list you made, is what happens, not that everybody needs like another or any kind of podcast, but what happens if all these interviews with healthcare professionals are like, this is great content. This should be a podcast or a Substack. Huh. Like, they should learn from each other, or all these healthcare professionals are burnt out and have wisdom to share. Who's connecting them? Like, you may get very meta about this, where you're combining kind of like the need you had and then helping to foster it and facilitate it for people in the healthcare space. So your impact is even that much greater. Because here's the thing with nurses and doctors, and I can say this because my brother's a surgeon, you're saving one life at a time, okay, versus a critical mass of people that content and marketing could reach. So it'd be very interesting to see if you take the best of your expertise and provide it for people whose work you have intimately experienced. I think there's a middle ground where you can combine everything that you've done up until now with your experience and create something totally new. And the only way you're going to do that is by every day, 20 minutes living in this world, not having figured it out, but taking some kind of action.